blood pressure support? That's a number to rave about. Thanks to Superbeats Heart Chew's unique 2X ingredient that helps promote normal blood pressure nearly 2 times more effectively than diet and exercise alone. Superbeats is America's #1 selling beet brand and the only #1 cardiologist, doctor, and pharmacist recommended beet brand for heart health support. A clinical study showed that the key ingredient in Superbeats Heart Chews is nearly 2 times more effective at supporting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And they're part of a brand with over 60,000 5-star ratings and reviews. So double your potential with a special offer exclusively for radio listeners. Get a free 30-day supply of Superbeats Heart Chews and 15% off your first order at getsuperbeats.com with code RADIO. That's a free 30-day supply and 15% off for radio listeners only at getsuperbeets.com, code RADIO.
Hi, this is Kevin Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer's Auction Company. Pfeiffer's upcoming October auctions include 320 acres of cropland in Clay and Wilton counties, 750 acres of crop and pasture land in Rolette County, 1,500 acres in Bottineau County, 1,000 acres in Ward and McHenry counties, and thousands of acres of crop, pasture, and hunting land in Slope, Golden Valley, Billings, Stark, Bowman, and Heidegger counties in North Dakota at Pfeiffer's annual Western North Dakota Land Auction event. View all land and equipment auctions at Pfeiffer's.com.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Oh my God! Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this second day of July. At least that's what it feels like in parts of the area. I want to thank you for joining us. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our wonderful, talented Ag Director Bridgette Readel and Meteorologist Justin Storm. How was the weekend, guys?
Busy.
Well, and I was just going to say, more importantly, I do believe the show opening should have started with "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you," because it's Dean Wysocki's birthday today, isn't
40th
it?
again. Yeah.
Hey, happy 40th birthday, buddy.
That just keeps on rolling.
You don't
after
look a
40.
day over 50.
Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Way to keep celebrating that 40th. It was so good. Why let it go?
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
Exactly. Well, boy, what a weekend weather-wise. We had thick pea soup fog on Saturday. That kind of never really burned off until later in the afternoon. And,
that was nuts.
Yeah. And now today, or yesterday, we had record heat, 96 degrees yesterday. And we'll be in the low 90s again today. And what a difference in temperatures from the FM area southward. Currently, temperatures right now in the mid to even some spots upper 80s. Grand Forks is at 69. You go out to Jamestown, 65. There's cloud cover basically, on a line from Jamestown up through just northwest of Grand Forks, and that's keeping temperatures in the 60s to around 70. Yet the central and southern valley is going to have another hot one today with highs in the low 90s for the start of October. That's incredible. That is.
Well, I can tell you this. Combines are rolling because we didn't have that moisture this morning, Dan. So as of that fog the other day, that held us back for some people to get in the field. But you're right. They're not too worried about it right now. Temperatures are decent and the moisture's not there. Mm-hmm. And you have rain in the forecast.
Yeah, there is some rain in the forecast. In fact, we're looking at as we head into late tomorrow, it looks like. But for today, it's a hot, dry one, low 90s here. A little cooler, again, the northern valley and just out to the west of the valley, where 60s and 70s will be more common. Clouds will increase a little bit tonight. Could fire off an isolated storm west of the valley tonight. Upper 60s for lows. That's warmer than our afternoon high should normally be this time of the year. And then breezy conditions out of the south tomorrow, with highs around 80. Some scattered storms coming in here later in the day tomorrow, and then just light showers Wednesday and Thursday. But we've got swimsuit weather here at the start of the week, and by the end of the week, we'll be in hoodies with a stiff northwest wind and highs only in the low 50s by Friday. Yikes. So, yeah.
Okay. Just weather aside, right? Okay. So It's cool right now. We're all of a sudden going to be wearing heavier layers and so forth. And I can never reiterate safety enough on the farm. As we've been talking, I literally have just gotten a Snapchat. This is from a farmer in Nebraska. His neighbor was hit the truck, so not a semi, but like a straight truck, a grain truck, started rolling on a slight hillside. Farmer tried to jump in order to stop the truck from rolling down the hill, and unfortunately, he got knocked to the ground and his legs were run over. So I don't know the outcome on that one yet. But again, could I please just reiterate safety? I don't like getting videos of hospital helicopters in a field.
That's tough. Did you see the story?
Not good.
Yeah, did you see the story, Bridgette? I will try and dig it up. I found it on social media. Farmer down in Nebraska, 94 years old, and he's out there harvesting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
that's awesome. I mean,
I saw that on social media too. In fact, I got to think whose dad that was. But yes, he was 94 and he had one of those first day of school signs holding up saying it's my like 64th year combining or something like that. It was pretty cute.
Wow, that's incredible. And it is that time. So and if you're driving and please be courteous of our farmers and they're out there, they're working hard and they're probably a little tired and don't pass them. They'll pull over once they get to a pull off and let you go. But safety comes first during harvest season for sure.
And our farmers have to be safe as well. And okay, Justin, I have a question for you. Were you a 4-H kid when you were growing up?
No, I was not.
I'm sorry you missed out on it. Hopefully Baby Storm gets a chance to be in 4-H. And this week is the National 4-H Week. So recognition to all of those students who have spent their summer showing cattle, raising a crop. There's a fair amount of 4-H achievement days and county fairs that are still going on around the country, and kids are participating in those all over the place. So just congratulations to all those 4-H members. There's a lot out there. And I posted a question on our Facebook page for Weather and Ag in Focus. Share your favorite memories of 4-H and or your favorite 4-H'er. Give them a shout out this week during National 4-H Week. Much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, what do we got on the program coming up this afternoon? We have our guest that'll be joining us in our next segment. That's Dr. Emily Fox from the Ashley Vet Clinic. She's one of our favorite guests. She always comes with so many great stories, and of course, she loves answering your questions. So if you want to do so, you can give us a call at 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoes phone line. A couple ag topics we got for today. We'll probably sneak one or two of them in here, but also at the end of our show, our next check on the weather will be why farmers use a farm business management program, Black Sea regions crisis, are threatening global food supplies, or food security, and also an Irish dairy farms and new dairy rules. So we got a few of those that are coming up on the program. And why don't we just start right from the top, Bridgette? Why use a farm business management program?
Now, first of all, this is not like it's just an electronic program or an app for your phone. It's people. And so a farm business management instructor in Northwest Minnesota, Betsy Jensen, has been a guest here on this show before, talking about how to get better marketing strategies for your grain. And so what Betsy and her counterparts do is they work throughout state land-grant universities around the country, and they try to help farmers do better when it comes to business decisions. So this was founded in 1953, and it really was a way to help farmers, whether they had returned from World War II or Korea, and try to get them to be more focused on the business aspect. Because nobody gets into farming to say, I can't wait to do paperwork and spreadsheets and sell grain. It's usually not the case that they're after. Nope. It's more like, I can't wait to farm, drive equipment, have some livestock, etc. And
get the equipment stuck.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Try to get it unstuck. And so folks like Betsy Jensen go right out to the farm, and they work with those farmers multiple times per year, probably every other month they're on the farm, helping go through your books and make good decisions. Should we diversify? How could we market this grain, etc.? So when you go in to see your banker, that person wants to make sure that you've made solid decisions. Farm business managers can help back you up in doing that so you can be more profitable as a farmer. So if it is a program that you are interested in, look that up through your local land-grant universities. I know we also run a program here in North Dakota, one out of Bismarck State College, out of Devil's Lake as well. And then there are several in Minnesota. So we can help a number of farmers just do better things. And like we talked to Sarah Vogel as our guest on Friday. Got to be careful with interest rates and so forth. You got to make really smart decisions these days financially in order to be successful.
Yeah, really do. And why don't we hit the Black Seas region, the crisis going on over in the Black Seas. We've heard on how it's maybe threatening food supply, grain trades, all of that. But what about global food security? What's going on with this, Bridgette?
Well, so there's some situations here where, in 22 with this invasion, corn and wheat prices spiked about 30% in wheat and 13% in corn. Now, by doing this, it really puts a global food crisis in action. In order to try to mitigate that food security crisis, there have been things like the Solidarity Lanes, the Black Sea Grain Agreement or Grain Initiative, which Russia did since walk away from. Now, the simple answer that with all this aggression, it's going to continue to increase the risk that the world grain market has in losing their number 4 corn exporter, which is the Ukraine, and the number 1 wheat exporter, which is Russia. If that happens, that would cut off 27% of our global wheat exports and 17% global corn. When that is the case, that means that somehow we would have to replace those numbers from other countries. That's a big chunk of crap that people might not be prepared for and able to bring to market. So this is going to be an ongoing concern. I know we've talked about it multiple times. Nothing has backed down in that situation where we're able to free up those ports and bring more grain out of those two countries. In fact, there's still a fair amount of the 22 crop that's still in storage that hasn't been brought out. Same thing's going to happen with 23. So just ongoing problems. Does that help drive our wheat markets up? Some, but it certainly adds to a lot of the volatility that we see in our price swings between corn and wheat right now as well.
How much are
just a few things?
How much can we help? And by we, I mean the United States. Our farmers help.
Oh, you don't mean here we grow?
Yeah.
20,000 acres of wheat.
How much can we help
That's
with
right.
that, Bridgette, for the shortfall that they're getting over there?
If we can, because we can't just turn on a factory spigot and produce more product. If we can plan that we have a good price for it next year, if we can contract and lock in a solid price to sell it at, then we could increase the number of acres we have for wheat and corn in the U.S. and try to compensate for some of those losses if possible. Okay. And our corn goes a lot of places. It's not just feeding people, but it's also livestock feed. It's ethanol and other sustainable fuels. So there's a lot of reasons to be growing corn. Wheat, again, has a lot more volatility to it. We'll see where they go.
Very interesting. Well, coming up on Weather and Ag in Focus, our guest, Dr. Emily Fox, is waiting. She's going to be joining us here in just a couple minutes. So we have that whole conversation to look forward to. And if you want to join in on the conversation, ask some questions, feel free to do so. 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoes phone line. You can also reach us via email. That's weatherorag@flagofamily.com. You can also utilize those live comment boxes over there on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, or you can also just stream us through Acres TV. So Dr. Emily Fox will be joining us in just a second. We'll catch up with the American Ag Network, and we'll be right back.
Fats and feeders up, hogs lower. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risfet with this Market Update. The live cattle contracts are back to trading higher as traders sigh a breath of relief that the government was able to avoid a shutdown. But even with the contracts now pushing for higher prices, there's a lot at stake for this week's market in regard to fundamentals. Last week, packers were able to not only keep cash cattle prices from advancing, but they also cut last week's slaughter to a mere 612,000 head. Feedlots need to maintain currentness, all while battling to keep cash cattle prices as strong as possible. It's a balancing walk to manage, and it will be interesting to see how feedlots manage that task this week. Last week, northern dressed cattle sold for $288 to $293, but mostly at $290 to $291, which is $1 to $2 lower than the previous week. Southern live cattle traded at $182 to $183. 183, but mostly at 183, which is fully steady with the previous week's average. Last week's negotiated cash cattle trade totaled 73,514 head. Of that, 80% were committed to the nearby delivery, while the remaining 20% were for deferred. Box beef prices are higher. Choice up 215, select up 287, with a movement of 42 loads. And even though corn prices are sporting a moderate rally into this afternoon, the feeder cattle contracts don't seem affected at this point, as traders are just relieved to see that the government shutdown was avoided, and the live cattle complex is lending support as well with its higher tone. We'll get a look at the livestock numbers. This is the American Ag Network.
North Dakota Farmers
Harvest is in the
Union.
air and the race is on to get the crops in the bin. While North Dakota Farmers Union wishes all farmers a bountiful harvest, they, more importantly, want you to be safe this fall. Slow down and don't cut safety corners. Remember, your livelihood and harvest yet to come depend now upon your safety. If you aren't already a member of Farmers Union, join them today at ndfu.org and download the new North Dakota Farmers Union app to get all the latest news and information.
North Dakota Farmers Union.
Conservation is work worth doing here in North Dakota. The newly created Dakota Legacy Initiative makes this work easier for producers and landowners by collaborating with conservation agencies and bringing all available resources to one online location with the goal of preserving North Dakota's legacy of agriculture, conservation, and legendary land and water. Join us where collaborative conservation begins. Visit DakotaLegacyInitiative.com to learn more.
Let's get a look at the livestock numbers. Live cattle October up 37 at 184.57. December up 52 at 188.45. February up 80 at 193.30. And the April live cattle, they're up 62 at 196.12. Feeders October up 85 at 253.32. November up 92 at 255.82. Lean hogs October down 2 pennies at 80.17. December down $2 at 69.77. And the February lean hogs, they're down 130 at 74.15. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Joining us today here on WDAY for Weather and Ag in Focus. Thank you also to two of our Here We Grow sponsors, Peterson Farm Seed. They gave us quality seed this year that's in the field with Farmer Jim, and we are waiting to get a chance to go out and combine that and bring it to market and see what our yield is. We've got a range. I think it's about 42 bushels. Dean's at 50. Justin's 62 or 65. He's got big hopes for how it's going to go.
I think Justin was drinking the day he made that prediction, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though.
Look, what am I
remember 'cause I
not
was.
drinking, Dean?
And then also thank you to Ellingson Drainage, because Ellingson provides us with a field that doesn't hold too much water when we get heavy downpours, and in fact does a fabulous job of making sure that runoff is managed very, very well all across the Red River Valley. Oh, before I forget, for those who are just tuning in, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Wysocki. So there you go. You're going to get this all day long.
Man,
Happy birthday, Dean.
you know how to serenade and make a person feel great. I appreciate it.
That's because I didn't buy you a gift. So, okay.
You let us tailgate with you over the weekend. That was gift enough.
Thank you for bringing a hometown favorite. You brought us some kuchen from Grandma's Kuchen, and I really appreciate that. Someone who's from that same region who will appreciate the thought, well, that's our guest today, Dr. Emily Fox. Emily is with the Ashley Veterinarian Clinic. And Emily, we love having you join us because we have never lost a chance to ask you great questions when we start this conversation. So we're looking forward to today. So my first question, the real reason I wanted to get a hold of Emily for today is there's a lot of discussion about foot and mouth disease in cattle and how that is a crisis across the globe, especially in countries like Indonesia, and it's also starting to show up in Australia, et cetera. Can you tell us, Emily, we know that can happen in humans, but what's going on in beef cattle? How does that affect our livestock? What's the disease about? What does it do?
So hand, foot, and mouth in humans, to my knowledge, is a completely different disease. Humans cannot get animal FMD or foot and mouth disease. And I think that that's something important to be aware of. In terms of what does it do? Well, when I told the employees here that I was going to be giving a talk on foot and mouth disease, they made a few comments about how good I am at putting my foot in my mouth when I'm speaking, but that's not what this is. That's different. So I had to remind them that that's not what we're talking about here. But I am famous for that. So foot and mouth disease is a disease of cloven hoofed animals, meaning like animals with toes. So deer, cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, not so much a disease of things like horses, which we can talk about later why that's important, because actually it helps differentiating from vesicular stomatitis virus, which looks the same but is not the same thing. So foot and mouth disease has been considered eradicated in this country since 1929. I did have to look that up to make sure that I was right, but 1929. However, there have been outbreaks in other places across the globe more recently, including countries that we have a pretty similar agricultural system to our own countries, like mainland Europe. There's been quite a bit there were 2 outbreaks in the UK. They've had problems with it on a number of occasions. And then it is considered endemic, meaning it's like around in most of the African nations, especially like I believe Southern Africa, as well as China. And so FMD is not, it's a very moribund disease, but not a very high mortality disease, which is a really fancy way of saying it spreads incredibly easily. It's not really a big killer, but it is a disease with a tremendous economic impact because it causes a reduction in milk production, like a severe one. And it also causes animals to not reproduce, and it also causes them to waste away and not produce meat, excuse me. So it is incredibly it's an economic issue, it's a welfare issue, but does it just come through and like kill all the animals? Like I think some people think when we talk about really fast spreading dangerous diseases that of high economic impact, it's not quite what people think. It's a little more complicated, which actually makes eradication even harder. From an epidemiological standpoint, when you think about it, things that spread easily but also kill quickly are actually better in some ways because at least they don't spread so fast. From an epidemiologic standpoint, things that don't kill their hosts but can persist are the most dangerous. And actually, there's even a little bit of a carrier status with FMD where animals can kind of clear it but not really clear it and continue to spread it. So it's really challenging.
Now, Emily, how much do we know if this is going to be an increasing problem along the southern border?
I think that's I don't think that's super likely. From my understanding, there's not a tremendous amount in Mexico. I'm more concerned with imports of animal product. So the thing that's tricky about FMD is it doesn't have to be a live animal coming across the border. It doesn't have to be on a person coming across the border the way that people think with some of the issues with our southern border. I mean, wildlife has been traveling on and off of our southern border for hundreds of years, and it has yet to create a huge problem with FMD. So I think that's incredibly unlikely. I think the bigger issue is continued import of foodstuffs, particularly meat, from countries without a great FMD status. So one example is, I believe, I can't remember if it was the outbreak in the UK or in Venezuela. I believe it was the UK, where the outbreak was traced back to a catering company potentially using meat from other countries that they weren't supposed to be using it from, that waste not being properly incinerated before it was fed to pigs. So there's a lot of, one ham sandwich. And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about because I think this affects everybody. This is not just a livestock problem. So they get these, I should go back and explain a little bit about what happens to the animals. They get these blisters, vesicular lesions. They get these blisters on their mouth, between their toes. They get a really high fever. They get really sick. Usually only young animals die, but older animals can clear the disease. And as much as 50% of cattle can actually harbor some of it in their throat and then give it up again. So, they look fine, they get sent somewhere else, they do it again, and then it spreads further. And it causes continued kind of malaise, causes them not to feel well. They don't do well. They also don't produce well, which from a food production standpoint is a major issue. The tricky thing is the economic impact of this disease is huge because not only does it cause a setback in production, it also causes other countries to not want your product, right? Because it's extremely contagious. It can travel in meat, it can travel in milk. And so the economic impact of the last outbreak in the UK, which I believe was about 20 to 25 years ago, I believe was over $10 billion. And they got that under control relatively quickly. They had to cull quite a few animals. You can try to vaccinate your way out of it, but a lot of the time you can't tell who's a carrier and who's vaccinated then. So generally, Venezuela has vaccinated their way out of it. That would be one of the few exceptions. But generally, culling is considered the only really effective way to get rid of it. And it's a huge economic impact. It's a huge loss. There were farmers who were quite beside themselves, losing, hundreds of years of their family's work genetically. It was a huge, huge issue. And I certainly don't take that lightly. And I don't want to take that lightly. FMD is it's one of the things that I think most livestock veterinarians live in fear of. I certainly do, that one day we would have it. And I'll tell you a story about how I could have brought FMD back to this country. Just to give you an example. When I was 18, I went to Spain on a trip, and I came back. First of all, I bought a sausage at duty free. And this was, I'm going to date myself here a little bit, 2006. So I bought a sausage in the duty free. And then I also had been on a farm. And do not lie on that form when you're coming back into the country, please. That customs declaration form, when it says, have you been on a farm? That's not something where you just lie and try to go through customs. And this is why. So luckily I was at JFK, which has one of the best agricultural surveillance areas of any airport in the States. And so I had declared the sausage. And I declared that I'd been on a farm, and I got pulled aside into some separate area, and they went through every pair of shoes that I had with me, asked me if I wore them on a farm, put them through a machine. There was like some disinfection that happened. It was a really big deal. And I remember they seized my sausage, which I was quite mad about at the time. But the reason being, they have gone back and proven, I believe there was one outbreak that got linked back to like one sandwich that came from China and was inappropriately disposed of. It's a huge deal. It spreads pretty rapidly. In meat, they really have to consume it, but in like waste products, say straw and stuff, I know it has an environmental persistence of 6 months. So this is a disease. Yeah, it's not like you touch it and you die, but it's a disease that has this really insidious way of spreading, right? It can spread on people. It can be on my shoes. It could have been in that sausage. And I remember I went through a airport that I will not name recently, and I realized that I had a sandwich. And I was coming again from Europe, where they have had more recent outbreaks of FMD. And maybe it's because it hasn't happened for a number of years. But I realized I had like half a sandwich left. I was like, oh my God, I didn't eat this sandwich. And I thought I should eat it quick, but so I wanted to throw it out. So I said something when I was in customs, and I was like, which one of these trash cans gets incinerated? I want to make sure that this doesn't go anywhere. And no one really knew, and I got real scared. So this is something that's really important. As travelers, we should all be aware. We all have the ability, even if you're just like eating a ham sandwich on your way back from Brazil or something, we all do have the potential to bring back this disease that could cause back like billions of dollars of economic damage, plus the loss of life of a tremendous number of animals. So super, super important to just consider the impacts of everything that we do. This disease causes a fair amount of suffering to animals.
Emily, we gotta take just a moment here to catch up, but I want you to continue when we come back. And also I want to talk about USDA is trying to fund and I think they're nearly there, a vaccine bank in case we have an outbreak in the US. So hang on to those notes. We will be right back, folks, as we continue with Dr. Emily Fox from the Ashley Veterinary Clinic.
News Talk Radio 970 WDAY. Hi, meteorologist Justin Storm. Every afternoon, my forecasts let you know how the afternoon weather is going to go and that all-important ride home from work. In all 4 seasons, that's the reason you listen. Weather changes fast, and I'll give you the current conditions as well as what the evening will look like so you can make decisions on the plans you've made. Don't forget Weather and Ag Radio every day at 1 p.m. right here on WDAY.
I'm Bill Bradford, the proud new owner of Wheels Power Sports in Fargo. At Wheels Power Sports, we pour our focus into our team and our customers. We know that if our team is happy and delivering a great experience to you, our customer, there is no way we can fail. We are here to get to know you and build a lasting relationship with you. It's our goal to earn your trust, respect your time, and treat you fairly. As we enter a new season, we hope to see you soon for all your Polaris needs at Wheels Power Sports, Fargo.
Warning, drivers must be at least 16 years old with a valid driver's license to operate. Read, understand, and follow your owner's manual. All riders should take a safety training course. Call 800-342-3764.
Let the Goose River Bank become your community bank. They believe a strong bank builds strong communities and would be proud to be your bank.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Tucker, WDAY News First. A group that aimed to recall members of the Fargo School Board will not face charges for a petition effort that gathered thousands of invalid signatures. That's the word from the Cass County State's Attorney. The group gathered the signatures in 2021, gathering more than 4,400 names for each board member. However, it was determined that 6,000 of the collected signatures were not valid. The North Dakota Attorney General says the city of Fargo violated North Dakota open records and meetings laws. According to an opinion issued by Attorney General Drew Wrigley, Fargo ran afoul of the open records law by not providing records in a reasonable time and not providing an explanation for a 4-week delay. A city resident had requested records from the Fargo Police Advisory and Oversight Board. Heavy equipment company Bobcat is dismissing union speculation about possible layoffs in North Dakota. The company recently purchased land to build a plant in Mexico. Union officials say the move could impact 300 to 500 jobs in the state, particularly in Gwinner. However, a Bobcat public relations manager says the claims are unfounded. And it was a hot day in the FM Metro Sunday. The National Weather Service says Fargo hit 96 degrees, breaking the old record of 90 degrees. That was set in 1953 and tied in 1992. Tom Tucker, WDAY, and WDAYRadioNow.com.
Is this what you hear when you call your shop? Hi, this is Matthew Carlson, owner of Fix It Forward Auto Care. We know you've got places to go, things to do, and people to see. That's why Fix It Forward promises to get your vehicle in quickly, your repairs done properly, and you safely back out on the road. Our speed of service is the service that you deserve. Fix It Forward Auto Care, the name you trust for car repair.
Fix It Forward Auto Care.
Hi, Teresa here, the owner of the Fargo Red Wing Shoe Store. I want to take a minute and thank you for shopping your local small businesses. By shopping at your local small businesses, you're investing in your community and helping create local jobs. As a small business owner, I am able to choose unique products just for you. I'm a friend, I'm your neighbor. Invest in your community and shop local. Thank you from the Red Wing Shoe Store. Red Wing Shoes for ultimate durability.
Boost your crop's health with Domark 230ME and Badge SC fungicide exclusively from Gowan, USA. Domark's systematic action teams up with Badge's outstanding mixing properties for unbeaten disease control on sugar beets, dried edible beans, and canola. Experience the power of 2 different modes of action with Domark and Badge. Don't wait. Contact your local ag retailer and ask about Domark 230ME and Badge SC. Always read and follow label directions from Gowan, USA.
This is Weather and Ag in Focus with Bridgette Readel, Justin Storm, and Dean Wysocki.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. We're rejoining our conversation with Dr. Emily Fox. And if you want to join in on the conversation, we're talking about hoof and mouth disease. Feel free to do so. Ask some questions on the Red Wing Shoes phone line. That's 701-293-9000. Emails weather or ag at flagfamily.com. And Emily Fox, you were telling us a little bit about how fast that this disease can travel and even how easy it potentially could be to bring overseas back here into the home country. I remember a story that came out, I think it was a year ago, about a guy who was flying out of Australia with a, what do you want to call a McMuffin or something, and basically got detained at the airport. They won't let him fly out. I guess that explains that one right there. Worried about the disease and the hostage. But we had heard something a week or two ago. We were talking about this topic, and it's ultimately what led up to having you come back on the show again to talk about this. And it was, if there was an outbreak here in the United States, potentially even just one case of uncaught hoof and mouth disease, and it kind of went unchecked, that it could spread across the country in as little as 72 hours or so. Is that correct? It could travel across the country in 3 days if it wasn't caught?
It really depends on what the vector is and how animals are moving. So first of all, the incubation period of FMD, well, I should start by saying foot and mouth disease is considered a reportable disease, which means that if I even have an inkling that it could be, or I can't rule it out, I have to immediately contact my state veterinarian or my APHIS AVIC, the people that are in charge of reportable diseases, right? Because I'm a private veterinarian and they are government veterinarians. And then they will contact USDA right away. It's considered reportable. It's a really big deal. So hopefully we would catch it. That would be the primary thing. And all those things, as much as they seem really annoying, are in place because of things like this. Same thing with having to get health papers whenever you move state lines. It's really helpful to be able to trace that. The incubation period of this virus, it's a picornavirus, which is just a type of virus, is like 2 to 14 days, depending on the animal and a few other things. So the worst case scenario I can think of in terms of spreading quickly would be something like pigs, which have a shorter incubation. In pigs, the incubation tends to be only a couple days. And especially if like a pig was to get on a truck, because it tends to be so easy to spread. And then other pigs were transported in the same truck before we figured it out with maybe some of the same straw or just the same truck. I could see that very quickly spreading, or if these pigs were taken somewhere and then disseminated multiple places. The good thing about the pig industry is it's somewhat linear. So most of the pigs are going to the same place, but that's one of the worst things I could think of. The other thing, I was speaking to a friend who's very involved in FMD the other day, and she said the worst thing I can think of is it getting into a place with a lot of deer, like Wisconsin or something, where you've got cattle herds where there's also deer, because once that wouldn't be a, oh my God, it's spreading so quick thing, but it would be a, how in the world do we get rid of it? Because these deer can hide. And from what little I've read, that actually seems to be the problem in a lot of Africa, is that it's buffalo can also have it, and it's endemic in a lot of the buffalo. And so even when they try to get it out of the domestic animals, the buffalo just bring it right back. And because it can spread between so many types of animals, they have a lot of spread, because they also have a lot of wild cervids, they have antelope, they have goats. And so I think that a big part of it is how much of a spreading wildlife factor do you have as well? Because that makes things a lot harder. The other thing to consider with that is, you know, if it were to spread quickly, it can also spread on people's clothes. So there's like, you know, if you have people going in and out of, say, like a state fair or something, that would be also a disaster. I mean, we just hope this doesn't happen, but that is one of my biggest concerns. And that's why, if you have had contact with livestock in countries where, you know, have HMD, or FMD, hopefully you are responsible and you kind of understand because you're involved with livestock. But I generally believe in downtime. They recommend, if you've been on a farm, waiting 5 days before you go to a farm in another country as a courtesy. So it's just something to think about. You know, you really could bring something back unintentionally.
Right. I got one more before we head back to that vaccine bank question that Bridgette was teasing up on. And I think you had touched on this, but I don't think I quite got an answer out of it, or maybe we were kind of talking about something that led in that direction. But if an animal gets this disease, foot and mouth disease, or hoof and mouth disease, are they able to get that out of their system? You know, like, is their immune system able to fight this off, and after a couple of weeks they're better? Or is this a disease that they are going to have for the rest of their lives until they eventually, you know, die?
So some animals get wasting from it and reduced production. Some animals really waste away. Young animals tend to die, like baby animals. But a lot of animals can sort of clear it down to, like, you know, 10% or so, and store it in their throat and then continue to spread it. So it's really, it's kind of beaten back, but not gone. And that's one of the biggest concerns, particularly when we talk about vaccination, because how do you really know if those animals are having, you know, if you titer the animals, for example, and you're testing for it, how do you test and make sure that a vaccinated animal, they might test positive as well? How do you make sure that you don't actually have an outbreak? It can make it harder in the future to test for an outbreak, which was one of the arguments against vaccination.
Okay.
So when you hear folks raise the alarm for the possibility of any of this happening, Dr. Fox, what's your best advice? What's the reality check that you want to give people, and maybe the pointers to say this is how we can keep everyone safe, especially our livestock?
The reality check, honestly, is that it may I'm not, first of all, I should say, I'm not in on the discussions of how we're going to handle this, because I'm not a state or national employee. I know there are more discussions about it. They do have some plans in place. I will say, I think all of the plans there's no plan that's perfect, and there's not a perfect solution for this. I can't say that we're just all going to be fine, but it's been around, right, for a very long time. At one point it was in this country. There are countries that have successfully controlled or eradicated it, but it was a painful process. And if we do end up with this here, it will be a very painful process for us, regardless of whether we vaccinate or whether we cull animals. And I think we will have to do both, in my opinion. The best thing that we can do is be good stewards. First of all, the best thing you can do as a private citizen is make sure that you're being aware of tracking things between farms, how you handle biosecurity in your own life, how you're bringing things into the country. The other thing that, we should really be thinking about is, if we do think we have something, as much as it sounds really annoying to tell the veterinarian and tell the government and be on quarantine, these systems are in place for a reason, that no one's doing them just for fun. And it's incredibly important to just let the system take its course, let people do their jobs. It's been really hard. Sometimes most people are really forthcoming, but I have heard stories where there's a vesicular stomatitis outbreak, which can look like FMD. And I know that it can be a real pain waiting for the government to release your quarantine. And there have been producers that have said, oh, please don't quarantine me. We know it's just vesicular stomatitis. Not in my practice, but I've heard of things like that happening. And I know there's a 99% chance it's not FMD, but these systems are in place for a reason. And it's to save all of us a lot of trouble.
And Dr. Fox, how well prepared is our government, the USDA, in case something like this would become widespread?
I will say I know they've done a tremendous amount of modeling. I don't get to be a part of that. I'm not an epidemiologist. If I was going to go back to school, that's probably what I would go back for. So an epidemiologist is somebody who studies a combination of disease mechanics and statistics, and they're using that information, right, to study how diseases flow within a group. So when we got all those COVID projections of how many ventilators we were going to need in a month, or all the things that they were projecting during the main part of the COVID outbreak, a lot of that data came from epidemiologists. And I know that there are a lot of epidemiologists that work for USDA that have done a lot of work on how does it spread, a lot of simulations of what should we do, where should we implement vaccination, where should we implement culling. And I know that they've tried very, very, very hard to prepare for this. That being said, if you look at other countries who I would think of as well prepared, like the UK, it didn't necessarily stop the outbreak. They still had to cull quite a few animals. It still had a tremendous economic impact. It's probably the reason that they did get it under control, and I think we will get it under control, but I don't think it will be a painless process if it does reach this country, and I really hope that it doesn't.
So, in all the things that have been going on with foot and mouth disease, that's one aspect. But so we've got this last couple of minutes together, Emily. What are your producers doing right now? What are you getting calls on? It's not spring calving season, but what are your ranchers up to right now?
So we're still ultrasounding. So one of the specialties of our practice is fetal age and sex ultrasound. It's actually why I came here, because Dean, my partner, he's one of the earlier adopters of fetal aging ultrasound. So we go in when the fetuses are still very, very small, and we take first we can look for their gender if people want to know the gender of the calves, which can be helpful in certain situations. But then we also take a very specific picture of the head in a certain orientation, and we measure it, and we get a due date that's probably close to as accurate as a human due date. So it doesn't sound that exciting, but if you have a lot of cows to calve out and you don't have, say, barn space for 400 cows, it's really nice to know which 100 are going to go first. And so we're doing a lot of that. In addition to that, we're getting close to preg checking. We're just starting to do some regular hand preg checking as well for a few people. That's just kind of starting up. Sale barns, because we have 2 sale barns, have gotten pretty busy lately. There's been quite a few people starting to sell some of the calves that are coming off grass. And then also some of our producers are starting to work their calves, a lot of pre-weaning shots. There's a lot of products, unfortunately, they're on shortage right now, which has made pre-weaning a little bit harder because we've had to supplement in some different vaccines we don't normally use. And that's all made things a little bit challenging. In addition to that, we have some producers that are kind of still getting themselves together in the field that are harvesting. So we'll kind of have another draft of work once those people are done. But our producers have been very busy. I had somebody come in this morning who's working calves today. I had somebody tell me they were still in the field. They've been all over the place trying to get everything done. And I think that rain that we had last week, as much as it was lovely to have rain, did really set some people back with things like hauling bales and, doing silage and stuff like that. And that's been really challenging. And a lot of people I know seem to be having mechanical breakdowns as well. So knowing me must be really bad luck.
I don't think it's just you. I'd just like to say welcome to harvest. So, Emily,
Right?
thank you so much for joining us. You are so much fun to visit with. We greatly appreciate your expertise. If you would like folks to reach out to you, how could they do that?
We have a Facebook page, Ashley Veterinary Clinic. We're on Facebook. Other than that, I'm pretty hard to find. But no, I'd always be happy to talk to somebody about anything. Although, if you have questions about foot and mouth disease, I will say the North Dakota State Veterinarian's Office is a far better resource than I am. They are incredibly helpful, incredibly well prepared, and we're very, very lucky to have them.
That sounds awesome. All right. Thank you ever so much for joining us today.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
Emily.
you.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We're going to finish up with a few more things before we hit a check of the weather and our last headlines. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. You know, weather is always changing, so if it's the morning commute with Bonnie and friends, or the drive home with Jay Thomas, or if you have important weekend plans, be sure to join meteorologist Justin Storm and myself to get you the current conditions and future conditions to get you through the day. For the most accurate forecast in the Valley, keep it here at AM 970, 93.1 FM, WDAY.
You have all helped support MyPillow and their employees in these tough economic times. Mike Lindell knows and continues to give back to listeners with deals on the most popular products. You've heard me recently speak about the My Slippers, the Giza Sheets, MyPillow 2.0, and more.
Great news! The MyPillow 6-pack bath towel sets are back in stock. The proprietary technology that makes them extremely absorbent, yet still providing that soft feel that you like in a towel. Soft. The set comes with 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. Regular price $79.98 for a limited time. Get this 6-pack towel set only $39.99 with promo code WDAY. That's a 50% savings.
So go to MyPillow.com or call 1-800-875-0644 and use the promo code WDAY to save 50% on the MyPillow 6-pack towel set. This deal will not last long. Again, enter promo code WDAY for this special and many more.
I'm Bill Bradford, the proud new owner of Wheels Power Sports in Fargo. At Wheels Power Sports, we pour our focus into our team and our customers. We know that if our team is happy and delivering a great experience to you, our customer, there is no way we can fail. We are here to get to know you and build a lasting relationship with you. It's our goal to earn your trust, respect your time, and treat you fairly. As we enter a new season, we hope to see you soon for all your Polaris needs at Wheels Power Sports, Fargo.
Warning, drivers must be at least 16 years old with a valid driver's license to operate. Read, understand, and follow your owner's manual. All riders should take a safety training course. Call 800-342-3764.
Farmers, when you get stuck in the field, make the call to Oaks Truck and Trailer. Pulling equipment out of the field can be dangerous. Why not leave it to the pros so you don't get hurt and your equipment doesn't get damaged? With 40 years of experience, Oaks Truck and Trailer is trusted far and wide when it comes to large equipment, diagnostics, analytics, and repairing farm equipment. Next time you find yourself stuck in the mud, call Oaks Truck and Trailer. Online at oakstruckandtrailer.com.
Vengeance is coming. Terror at every turn. In a new breed of haunted house. American Monsters. Onion Head's Revenge. Only at Mall of America. Fear is here. See mallofamerica.com/American Monsters if you dare. Not for anyone with health concerns or under 10. But you're mine.
Are you suffering from neuropathy? Do you experience stabbing pain, numbness, tingling, or burning in your feet? Are you tired of sleepless nights and avoiding life due to pain? If you've been diagnosed with neuropathy or are experiencing pain or numbness in your feet, pick up the phone and call us right now before it's too late at 701-929-7545. Again, that's 701-929-7545. Neuropathy is a very serious and progressive disease where your nerves start to break down. Eventually, it leads to balance problems, falls, complete loss of independence, and it can lead to amputation. Our program addresses the underlying causes and doesn't simply mask your symptoms with medication. In fact, many patients start experiencing relief from neuropathy symptoms within weeks. There's no surgery and no use of prescription drugs. Pick up the phone right now and call 701-929-7545. Call us today at Dakota Clinic of Chiropractic at 701-929-7545 today.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Oh my God!
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Got to get the screaming goat in there today. I mean,
You made it work. Nice.
Well,
Steve needs his daily dose of goat.
He does.
He does. And can that goat sing happy birthday to you, Dean?
I bet you we could edit it too. Oh yeah, we can make that into a birthday song. It'll just take an afternoon of pay, of course.
There we go.
Oh, well, why don't we run down the forecast? We've got some hot weather that's continuing over the area. So we set a record yesterday. We set a record this morning. And more than likely, we're going to set another record this afternoon. We're currently at 86 degrees, and winds are out of the south, blowing between 10 and 20 miles an hour. Yet areas just to the north and west of the FM area, only in the 60s and 70s. So it's just basically the 94 corridor right around the FM area and points southward, getting this extreme heat today. Looking for a high in the lower 90s, right around there, with mostly sunny skies. And again, the old record or the current record is 89. I think we'll at least tie that. South winds 10 to 25. A few clouds tonight. Could pop a storm west of the valley. Lows into the upper 60s. Our normal high this time of the year is 64. And then tomorrow, a few more clouds, some storms coming, especially in the afternoon. Some of those could be on the strong side. We'll keep an eye on that with highs around 80, and then much cooler weather, low 60s on Wednesday. And by Friday, windy conditions. Winds will be howling out of the north, 30 miles an hour, and highs only in the lower 50s, which means we'll be in the 40s most of the day. What a big turnaround. But the good news is the following weekend, next weekend, we'll rebound back into the 60s by Sunday. And most of next week looks halfway decent. Some really nice fall weather with 60s being common, maybe a few 70s. But we're gonna continue with the nice stretch of weather outside of later this week. And again, it's only brief. And the new LRC cycle starts this next weekend. So
just a couple days away.
Yeah, we'll be able to see how this all pans out.
So are you delaying? Are you delaying your birthday party until the new LRC starts so you can treat that like a whole big celebration?
That's Christmas.
Your 40th birthday, and okay,
that's Christmas.
Never mind.
I did enough celebrating this weekend, so we're gonna.
How about those Bears, Dean?
You know what? You really had to come out. You really had to come out and say that, didn't you? I said, well, now I know. Now I know how Viking fans feel because your quarterback can have a great stats day, and you look at it and you're like, how did we lose that? How did we lose it? We should have. Same with the Bears.
Every week.
Another high draft.
Did you guys hear though? I mean, last night's Taylor Swift concert had an unusually high amount of Chiefs and Jets fans at it. It was pretty impressive. Do you get it?
Yes, it did.
Come on. Go with me, guys. Go with
me. I want to know what her breakup song is going to be when those two split up. That'll be interesting.
She's probably already writing it.
But
anyway,
needed some new inspiration.
Right.
So hopefully, though, even with all the weather that's coming, we get a chance to combine soybeans. Like Dean said, we're having a little bit of rain later this week. Maybe we can get our beans combined before that. We'll just wait and see. I mean, this is what it really is like to farm: is you sit still and say, "Is it time? Are we ready?
Right?
Can we go now?"
Well, I'll be out there. I'll be out there tomorrow morning, Bridgette. So we'll be talking with Jim tomorrow morning, and hopefully we can get out in the field tomorrow. I think the morning should be okay. So we'll kind of see how that how that pans out. Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt. We got time, I think, here for one topic. Can we hit on this Irish dairy farms?
The first day we get through all of our topics.
Right.
Mark that on our calendar. So here a few years ago, the National Trust for Ireland created what they called the nitrates degradation, and it's a license to spread more nitrogen, meaning more manure per hectare on land that was routinely permitted. So that was started, and it was set to expire January 1st of 2026. But because Ireland as a country has failed to improve their water quality, it's forced the European Union to make a bigger reduction than what they expected. Instead of 250 kilograms per hectare, it went to 220. So with this new level, it's going to affect about 3,000 farmers, forcing them to reduce their cattle numbers or find more land to rent. Meaning, if you've got cattle producing X amount of manure, you can only put so much on your fields. And if you have too much, you got to find another place for it to go. So you may have to rent more land, find a way to reduce head of cattle, etc. So that could really force some dairy farmers into a rather strong predicament. What that can do then is affect milk prices, cheese prices, butter, etc. that coming out of that country, and some of that's imported into our country as well. So a lot going on in Ireland.
This kind of sounds like the whole fertilizer deal going over there in the Netherlands. We'll have to come back to this topic tomorrow. Let's add it to tomorrow's list because that's going to wrap it up for the show today. Dean, happy 40th birthday.
Thank you, buddy.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Jay Thomas Show is next.
Oh, my God.
Attention all growers and ag retailers. Tired of losing the war against wild oats? It's time to bring in the big guns. Avid